I first, please have some patience. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen. Share sound. Wait. So I'm going to look at the chats. Hi, everyone. Hi, Fran. I'm going to see who's here. Hello, a lot of beautiful people. I know. Nice to have you here, Simona. So I am going to, what am I going to do? I need to make sure that I'm recording. Because I've made some mistakes before. It's like the AI is recording and then I wasn't recording. It created a lot of problems because it's very confusing. So thank you for being here on time. I still have to get used to basically all the technology and everything. I want to make sure that nothing goes wrong. But yeah, as you know, my mind works in a specific way, and if I study something new, there's so much happening in my brain that I cannot, like, it's like this obsession that I have to put it on paper. Otherwise, I literally keep thinking about it, and that, that's not good for my rest. So this is why when Kabbalah came into my life and it really everything clicked, I was like, wow, would be amazing to actually create an overview of how it actually mirrors even what Dr. Joe Dispenza is teaching, what Lester Levinson and David Hawkins were teaching, but also what Abraham Hicks is teaching. And so from that perspective, you're going to have a really interesting, beautiful, like, synthesis, as I always do. So tonight's specific topic will be about relationships. When we went to the workshop in Paris, a lot of the people were single, because I don't know why, but David asked people to raise their hands when they were single. There were 330 people, and I think most of the hands went up. I think it were like little pockets where people's hands were not up. And so I will give some examples of the questions that were asked, and I will give you the tools to actually answer the questions yourself, because, this is not rocket science. This is literally, if you learn how to actually apply the tools, then you should be able to apply them yourself. So basically, Kabbalah talks about, our soul purpose and our soul mission of being here on earth, and relationships have a very specific role. And so basically all the struggles we have are actually showing us the things that we need to work on. So actually we need to be grateful for them. And the more pain, the more struggle, the more suffering, the more stuck we are, the more that we can see, oh, actually in that area we need to pay closer attention. The other thing that Kabbalah is really big on, and we know this already, but it actually really talks about victim consciousness. And even if we feel wronged, and there are some very interesting concepts in Kabbalah that will open your eyes and maybe even open your heart, and maybe even allow you to make this step to actually get out of victim consciousness. Because the thing is when we look at it from a personality level, there's so much resentment and so much like justification of why we'd want to be, let's say, resentful or not forgive. Whereas if you look at it from the soul level, something might shift for you, and definitely it did for me. And I feel like, this teaching of Kabbalah has literally, accelerated my understanding that I don't want to be stuck in victim consciousness in many reincarnations. So the other thing that, because we were talking about relationships, Kabbalah really makes us face our beliefs, our true beliefs about all these topics that are difficult in our lives. And it also explains how when we believe something, how it entangles other people. Well, those of you, we already knew this, but really it is so refreshing to hear that the ancients, like the people that were writing books even before we had paper, even before we had, pens, that they were already teaching us that we are entangling each other. If you put it in that perspective, then, then you really start to think, okay, I really need to stop entangling other people. And maybe I'm entangled, right? So, but imagine that we take back our power and we just look at if something is in my life, it means I'm entangling other people. And if I can be the common denominator and stop it in my own life. So again, we're going to talk about the 1% versus the 99%, because that to me was such a big empowering concept to work with, because the 1%, there's so little power in the 1%. And most of us, we are so in the trance in the 1% that we are all almost resistant to go to the 99%. So it's very important that we recognize when we're in the 1% so that we can shift very swiftly to the 99%. And so if you don't understand what I'm talking about, please watch part 1 of this presentation, and then you will understand it a bit more. And specifically in the workshop in Paris, actually, David talked a bit about making the creator your boyfriend and being unavailable, because even wearing a t-shirt saying the creator is my boyfriend, I'm unavailable. And those of you who know Abraham Hicks, you probably know this already, that Abraham Hicks has, when I heard it, it felt so outrageous that I should not really care about my partner. I should not really be, let's say, rely on my partner, and it was all about my alignment. But actually, right now, when you look at the science and really the energetics around it, it really starts to make sense that anything else would actually really hold us back and create a lot of difficulties in relationships. So the good news is that according to Kabbala, when you hear this, I want you to really go in and see how it feels for you. Imagine that instead of feeling unworthy, you actually hear a teaching and it says that you are worthy, and the creator or God or the divine or the universe actually wants you to have everything. And that everything is including love, is including soulmate, and it's including companionship or whatever it is that you want, including abundance and success. And so the creator or the divine is not seen as something punishing. It is seen as something pure and unconditionally giving. It's a giving force. And it is the source, the origination, the endless source, the beginning of light, love, abundance, and joy. And so we were created as vessels or receivers to receive that light, and through that light to experience love, light, abundance, joy, pleasure, success, but also the ability to have to earn it. And why? Because without the ability to earn it, we would manifest immediately and we wouldn't have fulfillment. So if you study some of the Kabbalah books, they start with parables. They start with stories of how fulfilling would it be if you would come to Earth and you would say, wouldn't it be amazing if I could just win all the Olympic medals, or I just want to be the most successful entrepreneur in the world. And it would just happen like this. Because it would be so simple, because we're so infinite, there would be no fulfillment. We as souls were so powerful that we said, I want to earn the fulfillment. And so this earning fulfillment is a very important concept in Kabbalah. And if we start to have a healthy relationship with earning fulfillment, then we start to maybe step back from resenting how difficult and how challenging sometimes these tests are. If you start to have a healthy relationship with, wow, in reality, I'm a very infinite being. And how fulfilling would my life be if I could just fall asleep and everything would be manifested, and I take a nap and everything I manifested was in front of me. And literally, it was like, it would be for an infinite soul, it would be boredom, right? And so this wanting to earn the fulfillment is a very important concept in Kabbalah. And it really made me less, what is it? Less resistant towards the challenging tests in my own life and in our humanity's life. Because you can see that when we look into the world, it is a bit of a mess. And sometimes, especially me, and I have a lot of Enneagram 1, so I actually care about the world and I'm very judgmental. I'm very focused on injustice and all of that. It really, really allowed me to see that actually maybe all of us may, and it felt really true, that maybe all of us chose this. All of us chose this struggle or these tests that we have to go through because we wanted to earn fulfillment. So I want you to really keep that in mind the next time that something comes into your life and it is challenging and it is like, why is this happening to me? No, it is happening for you. It is happening for us. And I will explain later why that is so important. So the creator wants us to have everything. We are one with the creator. We wanted to earn fulfillment. And so when we know that these things even already exist, then we learn that our desires, so our desires are sacred. So everything that you desire is not an ego desire. It's not because you're selfish. It's not because you're delusional. It's not because you've been programmed by these rom-com movies or Disney soulmate, narratives. It's actually all the things that you're desiring. They're, they're coming from an inbuilt flame in your soul. And the most beautiful thing that I love about Kabbalah is that it says the sacred desire exists because its fulfillment is already real, meaning the fulfillment. So this sacred desire is already existing and being lived out in another timeline, another box, as Dr. Joe would say. That timeline already exists. We're already living that timeline of abundance, of being with our soulmate, of being healed, and maybe living our life purpose fully. And because it exists, it is calling to us, and it is causing us to desire it. And the creator, or because we're one with the creator gives these sacred desires to us because they are part of our tikkun, our soul correction. And they are part of the areas where we are meant to expand our vessel, receive deeply, and reflect the divine. So when I read this, I really understood why, despite all my failures in love life and studying every training, every therapy under the sun, every energy healing method technique under the sun, I didn't give up on my desire to heal myself in this wound that I had in love life, my romantic love life. And maybe those of you who are anxiously attached, or those of you who are like, who have a bit of a pain in your heart when you think about love life, maybe from your family, or maybe from lifetimes of things that, that we had to struggle with, you probably understand that, on the one hand, you feel completely like you're just never going to heal this. But then there's another part of you that remembers, wait a minute, it's already happening. I want this because I can crack this code. And looking back, there was something in me when I went through the dark night of the soul in 2020 that I really said, I don't want to experience this amount of pain and suffering and self-sabotage and self-devaluation anymore. I will do whatever it takes to heal. And I didn't even do it because I wanted the relationship. I did it because I didn't want to, dishonor my own self-esteem by being in these relationships that were so painful. And so there was something in me that knew, but that didn't believe that I could be in a happy relationship. I just was okay with just healing myself so that I didn't have that much pain. So you can imagine that there will be times in your life that you will know there's a part of you that feels the desire, but it still comes from a needy place. No worries. That's where I was most of my time. And for you, it might be a desire for healing. It might be a desire to build a specific business, or it might be a desire to be free in a certain way. Or maybe it is about starting a family or meeting your soulmate, partner. But know that just because you don't believe it, it doesn't mean that it is not real. So if you are driven to actually really do the work on it, it is because it is real. So it's this paradox of the 1% of us not believing in it and actually being super scared that that we are just like somehow failing. And the other part of us, the part of us that is already living it, calling us. And I would like you to, as if we were in a constellation, if you're in a constellation, would stand in a room. And I would like you to realize, what are you facing? Are you facing the 1%, or are you going to turn around and face the 99%? Because this is really where you're going to feel the sacred desire and the purpose of the sacred desire, and that it was maybe part of your gift that you are going to give. Yeah. I really wanted to spend a lot of time here because a lot of people, when they are going through these challenges, they almost give up on their sacred desire. They start to think, and I see that in a lot of people, that they start to distract themselves. They start to make excuses. They start to say, oh, but I don't really want that anyways. Yeah. And actually, um, then they start to, what is it? They start to, instead of, let's say they wanted in love and it didn't work out, then they start to not believe in the 99% of that actually what they want is already real. And then what do? They start to, what is it? Entangle animals. They entangle pets with this type of love. And actually, David spoke about it in the workshop, but I won't tell you about it until we have that part. But so I think it's really important that the 1% of you that doesn't believe, the 1% of you that's struggling, that's not going to be the 99%, that will have the tools, that will have the insight, the downloads, and the persistence, and the certainty to guide you to actually go to the next expansion of your soul, even if it is going to be difficult, even if you will have to take accountability and you have to get out of the trance of victim consciousness. Yeah. So Tikkun and relationships is not easy. And I would say that my wounds are so small compared to what I see. And sometimes, the lives of my clients or other people. And literally, really, I am so blessed and but even that was hard. Even with like the, the ancestral trauma, the family that I was in, that was already hard for me. So I cannot even imagine how it would be for other people. But I can say that because of it, I went on a journey just like you, just like many people. And this inner journey to transform the wounds, the fears, and the patterns from past lifetimes, that is why we're here. And that is why we attract time and time again, not because we're failures, not because there's something wrong with us. We recognize these special people and relationships and situations that are going to trigger our pain and trauma. And this is why they say in Kabbalists, in certain timelines, you don't have a choice. You're going to meet this person. And if you avoid this person or this type of wounding, you're going to attract it anyways. And I will give you an example. I stayed single for many years when I was really like attracting unavailable men. I was living in London then, and I was like, and then one of the boyfriends that I was with, he cheated on me. And that was so painful for me that I literally started avoiding relationships. And then, although I was avoiding relationships, I found out that when I was living with my then flatmate, that unbeknownst to me, the dynamic with my flatmate was as if I was married like my parents, and we started living out the pattern of my parents. And I knew already I was living out the pattern of my parents with boyfriends. But I was single and I was just living with a really good friend, and we were acting out. We were literally like we were finding ourselves in the type of dynamic that my parents were living. And I was like, what is this? I felt really defeated. But now I understand, because in the part one, I explained that David gave an example of, if you are going to face narcissists, you cannot avoid the narcissist. You cannot run away from the narcissist. Wherever you go, the narcissist is going to show up. And so this is really where we need to stand still and think, okay, what is the secret sauce? How can we actually turn it around? So we turn it around by feeling the feelings, accepting the feelings, accepting the pain, accepting the feelings of rejection, maybe even the feelings of anger, all the feelings under 200 in the David Hawkins scale. And mostly by not distracting ourselves with tactics or not bypassing them. So we call it escapism or instant gratification. Instant gratification would, for instance, be retaliation or complaining and blaming, but actually pausing, and really trusting that the pain is here because something amazing is going to happen. Whatever we were triggered into, whatever we were disappointed about, or that this thing that we don't want is happening right now, we need to trust that everything in life is coming from the Creator, and even this difficult challenge is coming from the Creator and leading us to good, so that we can transform this little vessel that we are to a broader vessel, so that we can actually embody more light. This event, this painful event, these painful relationships, they're going to transform our darkness into light. And this is apparently the only way. So, so when you look at it, it is because the light wants to come in. When we're comfortable, we're not expanding. We are going to do the things we do the way we do it. Yeah. And but there's way more light wanting to come in. I said maybe we're 25% of the 100% potential. So what about the 75%? That is where we are going to struggle. When we say we don't want to change, but other people should change, because we are doubting the validity of the universe, why things happen. We are blaming others. We only see ourselves as victim. It's always other people who are doing it. And the solution isn't even here. And somehow I must have been just something faulty with the universe, because there's no solution. Then the light that wants to come in cannot flow, because we are not in alignment with the essence of the Creator. The whole lesson is to be in alignment with the characteristics of the Creator. And the Creator is a creator. It's not a victim. The Creator creates. The Creator accepts. The Creator turns around difficulties. And when we're going into these human characteristics of the 1%, we are not acting like the Creator, so we're not in alignment with it. So when we do these things that all of us do all the time, I even had a moment yesterday when I was or 2 days ago, that I thought, wow, this is something coming in for me to like really be transformed. And I really felt my energy being triggered like crazy. Even I went into victimhood, and I went into wanting to retaliate, and I went into lack. All of us are here on the same journey, but when we do it, how quickly can we jump back? How quickly can we bounce back? It's exactly what Dr. Joe says. You are triggered, but how long are you going to stay in it? Yeah. And so when we go into these states, we disconnect from the 99% realm, the realm of miracles. And the 99% realm is the promise, the infinite spiritual reality where Everything that we want is already there, but it is in a higher timeline, in a higher consciousness timeline. When we stay the same person, responding to the old situations the same way we've done in all these multiple past lifetimes, then we are literally blocking the light. Yeah. So it is important that, this whole concept of being at cause, and we know this from the Dr. Joe teachings, Tony Robbins, release technique, David Hawkins, all of them are talking about being responsible, being at cause, because the only other option would be is that you are an effect, that you don't have control, that you might as well give up, right? Just give me the gun and shoot myself right now, if that would be the case, because that would be such a bleak way of looking at the world. But understand that we are always at cause. And when we are at cause, we choose certainty beyond logic, even in uncertainty. And a lot of our lives are now in uncertainty, specifically these aspects of our lives where we are going to have to expand. And certainty beyond logic is a whole separate subject in itself. And I want to create a series of slides about that because I really want to dive deep. But certainty has nothing to do with, oh, my manifestation already exists and I'm just gonna will it into being. No, certainty beyond logic is certainty that everything is happening for my best will and that everything that happens is good. Even if I don't get what I want right now, and I don't even know when I'm going to get it, even if I'm tested all the time, I should have certainty that it's good. And when I was studying with Bob Proctor, I was taught that it doesn't matter what happens. It's the perception, the interpretation that you give to the events that will ultimately determine the outcome. So if you give a perspective of this is good, this is happening for the good, then you are in the 99%. But if you say this is the worst thing that can happen, how could this happen? This should not have happened, then you're back in the 1%. So certainty is really understanding that no matter what happens, even if it's the biggest heartbreak, the biggest fraud, right? The biggest power abuse, it is still happening for the good. It is still the Creator's light wanting us to experience something, and we really don't know how and why, but we still choose to trust and know that that we just have to align with the 99% and that we just have to expand and be in the unknown and get out of that analytical mind that wants to judge and that wants certainty, that wants to know, that wants to control, and that wants to prevent that thing from spiraling out of control. So the only thing that we can do when these things happen is to take responsibility. And I know how hard it is. Yeah, I'm not saying that it's easy. If you take responsibility for your patterns, and you need to know your patterns, so for me, it's like Enneagram 1, we get really like, what is it, like warrior-like, right? There was a time in my life when I was more like, passive aggressive. So maybe some of you are more passive aggressive. I don't know what it is. Maybe some of you start to punish yourself. You start to get sick and start to withdraw. Look at your patterns, take responsibility for them. They are your patterns that take you back to the 1%. And know then what would it be to go to the 99%. The 99% is the unknown. It's us acting from love and soul, our soul, which is the part of us that is calling us, that is in that higher timeline. And that soul wants us to get out of the ego and the fear and the patterns and the trance that we're in. Imagine, remember, the ego has another name. It's called Satan. To me, that was a big motivation not to listen to my ego or the program of my mind. Yeah. So when we do all of these things, and I'm not saying it is easy, you reconnect to the higher realm and you open yourself to receive the miracles, even if you are going through a lot of difficulties. And I have to say, that every time, ever since that I've been studying Kabbalah and I've been triggered and I saw myself going back to reactivity and lack or wanting to control or wanting to blame, I saw it in myself and I just said, I'm not going to that 1%. I really welcome the 99%. And even if I had to like stop myself and do something else and really calm down my nervous system and then really decide I'm going to send love. I'm going to send love to the situation. I'm going to send love to myself. I could really feel that my body started to acclimatize and I was no longer triggered. So I can tell you these things can happen very, very quickly. We are masters. We are not victims. But if we don't know how to stop these immediate patterns, we can literally be reliving this time, like lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. And but I can say, because I have been through things where I couldn't get out, sometimes it's easier to do it in a structure where you're working with a practitioner that can do energy work or that can guide you, because sometimes you also need a witness. Yeah. So of course I do a lot of group work, but I also do individual work. I had to do a lot of individual work on myself to actually really get out of a lot of difficulties where I probably was failing for lifetime after lifetime. But so there's nothing wrong if you cannot do it by yourself, because some things have to do with trauma and they have to do with like real victim consciousness that is probably even justified. But because we are expanding beyond the personality and human level, we're healing at the soul level. Hopefully that will help you heal certain things much, much better. So I'm sharing this little TikTok post that I made, and when you know that you're at cause, of course, you know that you have to see the things in a good way, and you have to practice feeling good. It's the teaching of Abraham Hicks, the emotional guidance scale. When something doesn't feel good, it means that you are out of alignment with source. You're out of alignment with the creator. And so this is why practice feeling good is so important in the Abraham Hicks teaching. And when you don't feel good, you have to take a nap. And then I made this really funny post because I can really relate to it. Like, I sometimes feel like I'm this evil cat. I would rather be unhappy and bitter than feel good. What do you mean? So I just want us to know, that we need to start to see that there's parts of us that don't want to feel good. We don't want to heal. We want to stay in the part of this is just not right. And of course, when you watch the movies about chemicals and how our bodies get addicted, ask yourself whether you're in an addiction. Ask yourself whether you're in an addiction to anger, whether you're in an addiction to drama, whether you actually don't want to heal. And when you go to my TikTok, I have quite a lot of videos that are really, teaching you about my psychology and about how I had to joke about my own like eat 1%. But they're so human, I'm not very special. I'm just really like a lot of people. And I love that evil cat because this evil cat is to me is like it's so powerful, but at the same time it's staying in a 1%. So you have a choice. So let's go to soulmates. So, there's books about soulmates, twin souls. I've read the books from Edgar Cayce, the people that study Edgar Cayce. Then you have Kabbalah talks about it. I don't know a lot about soulmates and how our souls basically get divided. But according to Kabbalah, your soulmate is not one person. It's actually our task, our assignment to reunite with our soul. But there are souls that are split in many parts, and there are business soulmates. You have children, friends, neighbors, teachers. You also have romantic soulmates. And then, and the soulmate is very important. Soulmate is not a person, because David, in some of his videos, said, And I want to take you to the appreciation game that, I told you about, the anecdote that Elle and we were teaching an appreciation game month about relationships. And there were a lot of people there literally at the stage of divorce and hating their husbands. And because we were mainly then teaching Dr. Joe, Abraham Hicks, and David Hawkins, people were taking responsibility and just appreciating their husbands. And they were literally writing book of positive aspects. That was the homework that we gave them every day. And this is what happened, and this is what David explained. When you become aligned with your soul, this person, which is your husband, that didn't act like a soulmate, the soulmate soul can come into this husband. That is what we saw in the appreciation game. And we didn't know this, but Kabbalah teaches about appreciation. Abraham Hicks teaches about appreciation. So Elle and I, when we realized that just recently, our minds were, of course, frazzled. We were like, my goodness, this is why we saw all these weird things happen in our game, because people were changing. And it wasn't just that person that was in our game, the people around them started changing. Why? Because they were doing what they had to do, what they didn't do for many lifetimes. And it was just because they were in an accountability game with us, and they were sick and tired of knowing it all and not doing it. So if you now know what your soulmate is, your soulmate is something that can come in a person near you or in your vicinity if you reunite with your soul, with yourself, your old soul. There's beautiful, beautiful confrontational videos of David saying, a lot of people ask, when will they meet their soulmate? And then I love how he says, let me flip this around. Have you met your soul? Would you date you? Dr. Joe says the same, right? So I think a lot of us are still like, when we're in that victim consciousness, it's so easy to blame the person standing here, this husband, this boyfriend, and to think, I'm doing everything I can except being aligned with my soul. I'm doing everything I can in the 1% that I can. Why don't you change? And then, of course, it doesn't work. And then you go to the next relationship, and then the soulmate is not in you. You aren't even aligned with your soul. So how can it come into this other person? And then this is why we have so much pain and suffering in the world. But I want you to think about, if you do the work, the soulmate soul will come into the right person. And I can tell you that the people that were in our appreciation game, when they fell in love again with their husbands, because these husbands started changing in front of them, and we're talking about marriages where people were like bickering every day, and the husband wanted to leave them, and they already were like going for divorce. And we literally had all these testimonials of people changing their marriage within like 4 weeks, 2 weeks. So, I mean, this is why I'm so obsessed about Kabbalah, is that the things that we saw before I studied Kabbalah, they are now explained by Kabbalah. Yeah. This is why I'm so like passionate about this subject. Yeah. So the soulmate is not somebody you find. You don't find them through effort, desperation, blaming, trying to change a person. You attract them by becoming the vessel yourself, ready to receive your soul in you. And then you attract it in whoever is the most willing and appropriate vessel to receive the soulmate imprint in them. So we do that by radiating love, wholeness, and certainty. And this looks so easy, but it's not. And then when we do that, but it is absolutely possible, because I think I did it, because I am now with a beautiful, very harmonious, beautiful husband. And if I can heal my wound in love, then everybody should be able to do it. You can radiate love, wholeness, and certainty, which is very difficult, I would say. And then the universe will mirror it with the person who will match it. Yeah. So this is a very interesting teaching because when I heard it, I was like, Because even the person who hurts us, betrays, or steals from us can be seen as an angel. But angel is not like a wing, as like these beautiful beings with wings and with messages that come from the divine. These people that could be the difficult people that initiate us into pain, they are just messengers. Each angel means messenger. In Hebrew, it means messenger. And it's funny, interesting. My name is Angelique, so I'm wondering whether I'm just a messenger or I thought I was one of these angelic beings with wings, but apparently I'm just a messenger. It's a bit disappointing, maybe, but okay. An angel is actually a person, a situation, or even a challenge whose job and purpose it is to deliver a specific message or opportunity for transformation from the creator. And that messenger role, so the person who betrayed you, the person who stole your money, the person who was a super narcissist, doesn't mean that they did the right thing. It just means they are used. They are used by the light to trigger your growth. So they're helping you. So when I heard that, I have to say, it took me a few months to actually digest this. Yeah. So, but I think I know it now. I think I can accept it and digest it now. So, so because Kabbalah says that in every challenge there's light, of course, law of duality, the bigger the emotional reaction something provokes in us, the more potential light it holds for us. If we do the spiritual work instead of just reacting, which is just responding in the old way, which is 1% ego type of responding. And this is why, the big Kabbalists, the big sages, they were looking forward to these big emotional reactions. And I'm not sure. I still have to do a lot of releasing maybe to actually accept these things coming to me. But if they do come because I cannot stop them, I will just focus, train yourself to focus on the amazing amount of transformation that can happen. Yeah. And so people who wrong us, and I could tell it's quite a lot of people in the world that wrong a lot of people, right? They push our deepest reactive buttons, exposing our ego traits, our pride, our wanting to control, our fear, our resentment, our lack of wanting to be the change that we seek in the world. And everything, they are exposing the ego traits in us that keep us disconnected from the light. And they do it again and again and again until we say, I don't want to watch this movie anymore. Yeah. So, and I hope, just like I do it for myself, I don't want to watch these movies 20 times. If I'm triggered and I know the pattern, I'm going to say, okay, thank you, creator. Thank you, angel. I want to watch another movie. So let me be curious about this other movie. So hopefully this is inspiring you. Hopefully this is going to give you so many tools that you think, yeah, 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 right? So the mirror principle and the 99% is very important because other people's behavior is showing us something in ourselves that we need to see, that we can see, or something that we need to strengthen. So for instance, if someone betrays us, it might mirror our own self-betrayal, meaning ignoring our intuition, not listening to our little voice, not setting boundaries, or testing our ability to trust the light instead of wanting to control people. So in my life, anxiously attached, that was my old me. I was always feeling rejected. But what was that mirroring in me? Me rejecting my own inner child, me rejecting my 99%, me rejecting my own ability to be at cause. Yeah. So if somebody disrespects us, fill in the blanks. What is it mirroring in you? What is this mirror image telling me about how I am treating myself? Yeah. So maybe write down for yourself the things that are really, really triggering you. It could be abuse of power. It could be people who are never, always, tricking you with words or with appointments or with work or money, or it could be family members, or it could be, big institutions. See what it is triggering in you. There's so much shadow work that we have to do in this. And shadow work isn't easy. When I do the big group workshops with shadow work, it is not easy. It sometimes takes maybe like 45 minutes before we actually have resolved, the energy of the shadow. But how worth is it? It has so much worth to transform the shadow in ourselves. The mirror is not showing us the shadow in the world. It is showing us the shadow in ourselves. And it's so easy to say, mirror, you should change. Mirror image, you change. No, it can't, because we are living in a reflective world. The world, the world of the 1% is showing us our consciousness. So Abraham said this, and I didn't like this quote. I seriously didn't like it, but I understood it. And this is why I did so much work on myself. Is although much as you would like to give the blame to somebody else for what has happened, it is your lack of appreciation for self that is responsible for areas of lack in your experience, whether it is love, whether it's not being well paid, whether it's not being respected, whether it's not being seen, not validated, not being given the right treatment, whatever it is. There is not one negative thing that is happening for any other reason than you are not appreciating yourself. And this was my download. We had to test the appreciation to the fullest with participants in an accountability game. And we have so much proof now of course, also because Kabbalah has a lot of teachings about appreciation, and appreciation is not just appreciation. It is a very, very important tool. And most importantly, regarding ourselves, how much are we honoring ourselves? And how much are we using the world to fill up any gaps in our appreciation of ourselves? Yeah. So Kabbalah talks a lot about friction is needed. And I don't like this, of course, but without the friction, there would be no growth. I can see that. I can absolutely see that if I didn't have all these problems, I would not have spent all this money. I would not have been obsessed about studying books, studying all these teachings, going to the retreats, training myself, leading workshops, creating PowerPoints and whatnot. And literally the friction was the fuel for my growth. And I know a lot of you here, the friction is probably the fuel for your growth. So basically what we need to learn is the things that make us triggered, they are forcing us to actually train ourselves to restrict the pattern of instant gratification of what we want to do in the moment. We actually have to stop that. We have to refrain ourselves from that. And the restriction in the face of something that triggers us is the fastest way to reveal massive light. So the more quick you can handle yourself in this moment of negativity, in your emotions and in your default pattern, the more opportunity there is to step into the zone of miracles. And you need the teaching of the certainty. You need the teaching of the Tikkun. You need the teaching of these people are angels. These people are here to help you. You need the mirror principle. You need all these teachings in the back of your mind to know that it is not serving you to go back to the 1%. It is going to keep you stuck. And you don't want to be like me. When I was doing some of the theta healing sessions, I learned that some of the things that I was going for, I had never learned those lessons in lifetimes before. And that's why I was struggling so much. Yeah. So it's important to know that when it is the hardest, it is the most worth it, because this is why you came. This is why you agreed to do it again, because you thought, I am going to crack this code. Yeah. So the free will is very important, and it's about the choice that we make when we are triggered. Are we going to go back to the 1% and the patterns in the 1%? And you could probably literally write down what these 1% patterns are. And you probably are super identified with it. And this is just who you are. And I also thought that that was just me. But when it is so painful and you really know and you feel the truth of what I'm telling you and what I'm sharing with you, then you're probably going to ask yourself, I don't want to be in the 1%. I want to go to the 99%. So then what do? You rise above the reaction. You choose compassion or detachment, and you break the cycle. And there are steps to take in the Kabbalah, but there's also a lot of other techniques that you can apply. So I teach a lot of that in the workshops that I lead because they're so important. Because without this piece of pattern interrupting our default mode when we're triggered, not everything is lost, because this is where we're tested. Yeah, this is where we go back, we regress into a lower timeline, or we go up the higher timeline. Yeah. This choice point of these difficult moments is the exact arena where our soul earns the spiritual fulfillment. That is when you know the test is on. My guardian angels are looking at me. They're helping me to succeed. My higher destiny is already happening. So am I going to go like one layer below to this other timeline where I have to do it over again? Or am I going to go to that higher timeline? I know the answer. I'm going to go to the higher timeline. So the paradox is that these angels, these difficult people, they don't know what they're doing. And when you hear the Kabbalistic teachers say that, you think, what is going on? And it has to do with the fact that maybe all of us are used by the light. So this is also when you have done certain things that you feel guilt about. You have done things that you think, I wish I hadn't done that. You were also used by the light. So there are no mistakes. So the person that hurt you with something they did, they may not even, they were used by the light. But of course, they will be accountable for their own actions in their karma. But if we're used by the light to help somebody, learn something, and we were very difficult, and we were in that victim consciousness, we were blaming, or we were doing the worst of the worst, we can't just forgive ourselves because all of us are used by the light. And from your soul's perspectives, we are, or they were, a tailor-made messenger to help each other reach the next level. Yeah. So, and there's a lot of the relationship dynamics where things are very difficult. You cannot be with a person when you are not there to actually be able to help them, or they them be able to help you. And even if helping is a breakdown, as I said in the part 1, sometimes you have a breakdown before you have a breakthrough. Sometimes you need to get that divorce. Sometimes you need to be fired. Sometimes you need to have all your money stolen. Sometimes you need to have, some kind of difficulty with let's say integrity with people, especially their integrity, before you can actually learn a lesson. And but that exact lesson was needed, and I cannot tell you how much peace this teaching has given my soul, because as somebody who has strong Enneagram 1, I'm now more Enneagram 2, I think, Enneagram 2 wing 1. As strong Enneagram 1 for most of my life, this injustice piece was big for me. It was super big, yeah. So why would you want to get out of the 1% and take responsibility because you are so sick of it? It's important to know, again, to remind you that responsibility starts at 200. And I want to remind you that below 200, and these are very familiar feelings and emotions of our human dimension, also for me, very, very familiar. The 1% is where we don't take responsibility and where we're always in lack. We always need to give and get it. We always need to demand it. It's never coming from us, and we're always separate from it. Yeah. So it needs to happen through an external thing. This is where the pain and suffering and illusion comes from. It is very painful to be in lack and separation consciousness. We want control, we want approval, we want safety. We are creating resistance and we're struggling even with ourselves or with other people. We're in victim consciousness and blaming, it creates a lot of suffering in our consciousness. And we are driven by ego and reactive patterns, meaning it's not me, it's you. So if you see this and you really don't like this behavior in other people, imagine that we can only see this if we have it in ourselves. And if we see this and we're not triggered by it anymore, then it means that probably we have compassion with people who are stuck in these patterns, but we don't have to manage these difficult 1% trance states that much anymore. Yeah. Because if you're in the higher states, you can see this happening to other people, but you'll be more in acceptance. And in acceptance, you see these people as just part of their process being stuck under 200, and you're not going to feel judgmental about it. It's letting go. So again, this, I added these two lines here in the 1%. In the 1%, you're always seeking to take or to get or to control. It's always about you are needing to change that mirror projection, that mirror image, other people, the event circumstances, and because it's outside of you, because you're in separation consciousness. Whereas if you actually go into the 99%, we let go, we give love to the situation and to ourselves, and even to this difficult angel, and we align within ourselves. Yeah, and this is the biggest thing that we can do. So certainty, as I said, I would like to do a whole webinar just on certainty and maybe even a whole workshop and do like energy work with it, because I think this is such a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I would like to know how to synthesize the teaching of certainty, because I even wrote affirmation songs about certainty beyond logic, because I love the concept so much. And certainty is the key to receiving. It is not blind faith. It is an inner knowing or remembering that even if I cannot see it yet, and I don't even know when I will see it, the light is working for me. My soulmate exists, my abundance exists, my healing already exists. But in the context of relationship, love is not only possible, it is promised to me. It is already happening. I trust the process and I trust my soul's journey, and I don't need to control it. This spiritual certainty removes the veil of separation, because most of the time we are separating ourselves from the things that our soul knows are that are already there for us, that are already happening. Certainty also dissolves fear that, that this thing doesn't exist, that we need to control it, otherwise it's gonna be slipping away from us. And this certainty brings blessings into our physical world. And, like, I want you to think of people that have certainty. I want you to think of maybe some instances in your life where you had certainty despite things not happening the way that you wanted them to happen. And I can tell you, when I was going through my dark night of the soul, there was a time that after a certain amount of, maybe I think 4 months of healing and deep, deep pain and deep grief, I started to go into this zone of miracles, and I started to go and feel certainty, because suddenly I wasn't that a wounded child anymore that wanted my partner or my ex-boyfriend back. I suddenly knew I had done enough work to know that I was doing the work of my soul and that everything was working for me. And I literally did all the work of healing my relationship to the masculine. And I did that with Theta Healing, because I animus work, the Jungian work, where I had to basically get out of this identification with As a woman, I'm always abandoned. As a woman, I'm always unworthy. As a woman, I'm always rejected or, somehow at a disadvantage. And I had to go into past lives where I saw that I was the masculine. I was the untrustworthy masculine. I was the power abusing masculine. And when I had that, when I severed the separation consciousness with the masculine and I did my shadow work, I could really stop thinking from the victim consciousness that I was in. And I knew that this life where I was feeling all this pain, it wasn't the only life. I had multiple lives. It will never end. And I could literally just allow myself to be in certainty and to let go of demanding that things would happen in a certain way. And so this is my personal reflection on how I feel certainty worked for me in very difficult times. But for those of you who are very interested, my business partner Elle and I, we are shooting a whole series of podcasts where we actually go very deep in our own healing work and our own transformation work and the way that we created, being victims, being women that were stuck in victim trance states to actually being the creator of our lives and attracting our now, current fiance and husband. Yeah. So, so if you still think, oh, why should I be an effect? Being an effect is very powerless. It means you are controlled by external circumstances. So you are not in your own center. You could be the most wealthy person, the most spiritual person, the most studied person, the most celebrated person, but anything happens and boom, you're out of center, right? Do you really want that? I wouldn't say so. I don't think so. So if we're gonna go to really going back to being at cause and getting out of this persistent identification and justification of victim consciousness and that you are a victim and that these things have been done to you, you actually really can only see you are at cause in the 99%. The 1% is the effect, the 99% is the cause. And I will be doing slides next week about the 99% and really understanding being at cause at a much higher level. But being at cause means that when you are taking that responsibility, it immediately affects your internal state and your external reality, because at the moment that you go to being at cause, you are working with 99% of the infinite field of possibilities instead of with the very small limited 1% where we have to control people, we have to blame people, and we have to sue people, we have to do court orders and whatnot and have lawyers involved, yeah? So if you don't know what being an effect is and what being a victim is, those of you who are studying with us, 7 toxic ways of thinking, that is always when we are being an effect and when we're not thinking. Know that thinking is a really difficult thing to do. Most of us are not even thinking. When we're in the 7 toxic ways of thinking, we're not thinking. We are just in a program, and thinking is the hardest and most exhausting of all labor, and hence many people shrink from it. And, if you look at the 7 toxic ways of thinking, they are rampant. They are rampant. These are almost all our default ways of being. So, so how do you turn this around? By being at cause, and in the release technique, we say take responsibility, reflect, what is this situation revealing about me? And of course, the next teaching that was very challenging for me when I first started studying Kabbalah a few weeks ago, or a few months ago, it said, there is nobody else here but me and the light of the Creator. Your husband isn't here. Your ex isn't here. Your boss that you blame isn't here. And I don't believe that our 1% can fathom that. There's no way that our 1% can fathom this. It's the 99% of the invisible unseen that can fathom this. And I cannot even explain this, but I can only say when we're in the 99%, we need to embrace not knowing and really allowing us to experiment with these teachings, because this is how we earn fulfillment. This is how we are going to learn outside of the container and the prison of the 1%. If you really want to, yeah, if I look back at, for instance, the appreciation game, and I see all these women who were, not just like appreciating their husbands, some were appreciating children, some were appreciating in-laws, some were had to appreciate colleagues that were very difficult. They started changing into other people. And as I said, these other people started changing. And so what does that mean? What does that mean? This is a funny TikTok video I made, and I cannot show the music. It's a very funny, it's beautiful music, but if I show it, then I think YouTube will flag my content because I'm using music and I don't have the rights, blah, blah, blah. But anyways, this bird is from the movie Angry Birds, and it keeps saying no, 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 no. But actually, this quote says, if someone is in your life, you have attracted them. And while it's sometimes difficult to believe, you also attract everything about your experience of them. For nothing can come into your experience without your personal attraction of it. Abraham Hicks. And the Angry Bird says, no, 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 no. Can't accept it. And we've all been there. All of us have been there. So, but rather than blaming circumstances, people or past events, this happened to me, then my parents, my ancestors, whatever. Kabbalah teaches that everything in your life is here for your spiritual growth. Every person who bothers you is actually mirroring something within yourself that needs transformation. Every person in your life is sent by the light for a reason. Some are here to inspire you, God bless them, and some are here to challenge you, God bless them also. But all of them are angels for your soul's correction. So this is, I think, this is a funny quote about basically a part of me that was always waiting to be saved. And hopefully we can see it. Wait, can we hear it? I think it's so funny. Yeah, that was me, always waiting, hoping that somebody else would make me feel finally good enough, finally loved, finally lovable, worthy. But we are so past this because we're no longer going to, this Michael Bernard Beckwith, we cannot go back to the stage number one, which is things are happening to me. We also cannot stay in this human dimension, which is things are happening by me, yeah, giving my power away, not taking responsibility, but I'm not learning with the creator. It's just me, everything I have to do by myself. We have to go to stage 3, which is things are happening through me. This is where the 99% is happening. This is still where we are trying to effort and control. And we are doing mind movies, we are scripting, we are journaling, we are going to psychics. When will my ex come back? When will I get the money back? Or whatever it is. We don't accept what happened. We are actually trying to control it, whatever it is. Number 3 is accepting the pain and seeing that everything happened exactly the way it had to happen. And we allow now the creator to move through us, to expand us. And life is living us. We don't need to control. We don't even need to know what is going to happen. We are just knowing that everything is coming from the good. And when you do that, you are stepping in the unknown. Finally, you're stepping in the unknown. And the unknown is prosperity and unity consciousness. We are no longer separating things that we don't like from the creator's consciousness. We say everything is the creator's consciousness, and everything is here to make me more abundant. And so David Hawkins calls above 200, yeah, above responsibility, he calls it integrity. Everything else is falsehood. And it's also the dimension of strength and flow. And this is where the miracles happen. And this is where we become magnetic. Remember that woman in the workshop that was waiting for 5 hours, please, God, make David choose me. And then she let go, and then she became magnetic. It's also about allowing. We don't have to stand there with 5 hours or just like Mr. Bean, waiting, waiting, waiting. We don't have to do that. We just basically start to take responsibility and give ourselves what we give the world, what share with the world, what we want to receive, and things can flow. And most importantly, this big blind spot, take responsibility for all the things that we didn't like, that we didn't like happen to us. And start to reflect, what is it in me? And we always with integrity say, there must be something in me that caused this, something in me, and I don't know what it is. I still don't know everything, but I am at cause, because that gives you so much power, and you are then in the realm of prosperity and unity consciousness, and in the realm of miracles and blessings. Yeah. So if you study David Hawkins, it's only above 200 that we are willing to face challenges and take calculated risk. Imagine that if you don't face challenges, you don't take calculated risk, you're always going to be sabotaging yourself. You're going to be in a place where you're in apathy because you're just so resistant to things going wrong. Whereas if you want to face challenges and you say, whatever happens is going to be fine because I'm learning, and you're taking calculated risk, you're in 200. You're not focusing on protecting yourself. You're focusing on long-term benefits for your soul. And these people above 200, I doubt whether you can actually even be inspired by people under 200. They actually are people, like the people below 200, they actually seem very, in a way, they have a consciousness where they don't inspire us. They make us a bit more, they entangle us with, and it could even be ourselves. You entangle yourself with anger. You entangle yourself with people that feel powerless and that don't see a solution, and it's never them. Whereas if you're in 200, you actually encounter people that are inspiring you, that are motivating you, or you just feel the inspiration and motivation through positive influence, right? 200 is the initial level of empowerment. Below that, there's no empowerment. And it's the key step to turning our lives around while positively impacting others. So as long as you're not going to responsibility, you cannot even impact others. Yeah. So if you understand that, then you have a lot of power just by taking responsibility and really thereby just entangling others to a higher level of consciousness. The lower levels of consciousness, which is force, are destructive. And if, I think, do I need to know more than that ego is the same as Satan, that is destructive of life? I don't need to know more. That is etched, this is tattooed in my brain now. Ego is Satan and the program and the playback and recording machine and its destruction. I'm destructive when I go there. And it is not just me. I'm destructive as an individual, and I entangle society at large with my destructiveness. And unfortunately, we have seen timelines where in history, one individual, they could literally be destructive and entangle many others. But imagine that you can also do the opposite. You can be that one individual that could be inspiring and motivate others through positive influence. Yeah. So being at cause, yeah, do I need to say more? You act like the creator. What does the creator do? The creator wants to give. The creator wants you to know that everything is happening for you. The creator wants you to know that you have so much power. The creator wants to give you endless light, endless pleasure, endless love, endless abundance, health. And Dr. Joe Dispenza calls it, creating outside of the identity of, let's say, the program, which is the 1%, because remembering who we really are, falling in love with life, creating from the field, which is the 99%, and becoming nobody again, not being in that neural network of who we believe we are, and not even operating in time, operating beyond time. Abraham Hicks has a lot of a lot of beautiful channelings about how we are source energy. We came here to be on the leading edge, but we have to master the art of allowing. Yeah. Lester Levinson is always talking about take responsibility, be a boss, have the mastery of self, correct your thinking. And it's always pointing back to us. Science of Getting Rich is talking about the formless substance, that when we form things in our thought and we interact with the formless substance, which is the 99%, it causes things to be created in the 1%. And so this is why I think, we can't really, there's no actually a hack to get out of being at cause. I really I wanted to give so much attention to being at cause because Elle and I, we were discussing like, how is it possible that people know so much and we knew so much for many years? We were studying, spending so much money in therapy and whatnot, and retreats and workshops and books, podcasts, and we were still in victim consciousness, maybe because we haven't studied being at cause and what the price it is to not be at cause, the absolute destructive price of not being at cause. Yeah. So Kabbalah also says that happiness is an effect of being the cause. So we could turn it around. We could say unhappiness is an effect of being a victim. Unhappiness is an effect of refusing to being the cause. Yeah. And they talk about the movie. We are the authors of our own movie. We are the producer, the director, and we are the actors. It's mind-blowing, right? Why would I do that to myself? Oh yeah, remember, I was an independent creator and I wanted to experience fulfillment. The only way that I could do it was through contrast. The only way that I could do it was by forgetting. The only way that I could do it was by earning it when there was friction and challenge and drama. Yeah. So universal law, according to Kabbalah, says nothing has been done to us. We are not being forced. We are not suffering. We are not punished. We are here because we chose it. Nothing is happening to us that we couldn't solve. We are choosing our own path. So it doesn't matter how big the challenge is that you have in front of you, whether it is a big organization, a big systemic thing, or this big thing where you think, no, I cannot believe that I, in my own person, my own one person can affect this big thing. But I would say, why don't you just try it? Why don't you see for yourself? Not out of control, but out of curiosity. I know that Dr. Joe, when he taught the Change the Box teaching, I watched it many times because I really wanted to imprint myself that I could imagine that my consciousness could change so much that the problem that I had in my life would no longer be there. If we see ourselves as the authors of our own movie, could you imagine that new movie, that new soul that is ready to be to meet us in our expansion? Could we imagine that all these so-called perpetrators, institutions, and villains, could we imagine a movie where they no longer exist or that they start to wake up as well? This shadow work, I realize it's difficult because we need to get out of this script that it is dangerous to trust the shadow. It is dangerous and it's life-threatening to do our shadow work because we need to be always cautious because we could be killed. In the release technique, they talk about the main programs, and every program is about us somehow doing something, and if we don't do it or we do it, we get killed. We are so afraid of death. We are so afraid of taking risks, but our soul is not afraid. The we that is afraid is the 1%. that larger part of you, the 99%, is not afraid, is not even afraid of death. So if you can rewrite the movie, could you then do the shadow work and allow the shadow to be you and allow you to be also the perpetrator in the movie? And this is the power of constellation work. In the constellation work, when we do that, you can be the perpetrator, you can be the ego, you can be the narcissist and whatever it is, and that is how you free yourself to actually realize that we are the authors of our movie. We are the producers, we are the directors, we are the actors. And this is not easy because our body, and I know this, goes into a lot of resistance. And this is why, in the next presentations, I will talk about how we work with all these different triggers in our body so that you can actually digest this somatically and in your nervous system so that you can actually raise your vibration. So when we are at cause and we understand Kabbalah, we have to accept we are never a victim. There are no accidents. What is ours must come to us, even if it's something that is going to expand us in a very difficult way. What is not ours will never stay with us. And we have exactly the circumstances we need. So the universal law is that the creator cannot force us into a situation we cannot handle. So in the workshop, there were a few examples of people doing workshopping with David. So they ask questions. So I will not tell you exactly what happened because I know that David is probably going to sell that workshop. But I think you know enough now to be able to do your own thinking about what David might have said, right? So somebody was talking about arguing with their loved one all the time, and they really loved each other. And the way that David does it, he asks them questions so that that person or you, it could be you're arguing with a boss or, with your loved ones. What is it that is triggered in you, and what is the mirror showing you? And then we go a layer deeper. If that is showing you that you are wanting control, wanting approval, wanting validation, then you need to stop that cycle. Yeah. So just like the woman that was raising her hand and wanting validation, and then after that wanted control, we go back to the same loop. If people are not treating you the right way, what is being mirrored? What is being triggered and what is being mirrored? And what is that? What is it in you that you don't want to work on, but you would rather look outside of you? Yeah. There was a woman that was worrying or taking care of everybody. So why? Why do we do that? Why would you do that? What is being triggered in you? What are you trying to control? You know? When we see painful dynamics in relationships, because there were a lot of people with painful dynamics in relationships, what is that mirroring in us? And for everybody that you do the questioning with, it would be different. But this is going very, very deep. And he did it in a very, very good way. But it was a one-day workshop, so we didn't have like let's say a resolution. But I would say, having these examples, knowing that these were the big questions that were being asked in the workshop, it would be good for you to actually really look more in depth into what is going on in your life. And I really wanted to go back to this specific quantummatch.com example of Dr. Joe, his workshops. When you go to his workshop, he always talks about that we are having people in our lives because we are bound by an invisible field of information, the 99%, and that this is the quantummatch.com. So a perpetrator will always find a victim, or a victim will always request a perpetrator to come in to make them aware of their victim consciousness. Or it could be somebody who is not wanting to be seen will always bond with a person that is not going to validate them, right? They share the same emotion, they share the same information, and so they're connected. So Dr. Joe says we need a higher energy to separate them. And so when all these people then start to do the inner work, this is when they start to break the bonds, right? But there's other ways than meditation. There's, the tools of Kabbalah, you have releasing, you have, other types of energy work. But it is not just about your, awareness. It is coming from a higher level of consciousness. And the best way that I know how to do it is just to take the David Hawkins scale and say, can I accept? Can I accept that this was my creation? Can I accept that maybe I am a victim because I am a match to a perpetrator? And what is this perpetrator reflecting in me? Maybe my lack of my resistance to being a perpetrator, or my resistance to being a victim, or my resistance to actually taking responsibility. I would rather blame than to take responsibility that I am perpetrating on myself. And that is why I'm always attracting perpetrators. I don't know what it is, but it is that type of deep self-reflection and inquiry that can help you to really see that all the teachings are talking about being at cause that will get us out of trouble. So in the Paris workshops, they talked about limiting beliefs, which is, of course, the 1%, but they also talked about competing beliefs, which to me is split intentions from Abraham Hicks. When I do the workshops and I do the big group workshops, we always work with these two facets. But what I see is it's relatively actually almost easy to change limiting beliefs because they're so easy to actually identify. But what is difficult to actually turn around is actually split intentions. Because when we look at split intentions, we're looking at a big part of the person that really thinks it's not safe to actually transcend this split intention. And so this is where most of the work, when we do that in groups, we do a lot of we put a lot of energy in the split intentions. And it's very beautiful work because you do it with a group. And so how would that work out in Kabbalah? So David had a woman who asked about how is it possible that I'm always attracting unavailable men? David was just asking her some questions, and these things came out, which is like a part of her wants to be with her soulmate. Let's say this is 12.5%, but then a part of her wanted to be free. Boom, split intention. And then a part of her didn't feel safe to be loved. So the way that I wrote it down is slightly different from David because I do look at the split intention. I look at the limiting belief as well, but I also look at the vibrational set point. Her body, when she thinks of love and the way that I felt about love, was it was risky, it was dangerous, it was not safe. From that level of consciousness of fear, there's no way that you can actually really magnetize the right soulmate to you because at that level of consciousness, you're not even aligned with your soul. So for me, although I know it's not possible for everybody to do their work outside of relationships because relationships are so fruitful. They help you grow so much and gain so much awareness. I would say that, if you are in fear or if you're in shame and guilt, it is actually better to not be in a relationship because you're just gonna match, you're just gonna attract people that are gonna reignite that wound of shame and guilt. And if you really have that sacred desire and you know that you want this soulmate relationship, whether it's with your business partnership or with your love life or with your friend circle, whatever it is, you need to look at the set intent, your split intentions. You need to look at all those parts of you that are canceling out this conscious desire of, I want this goal, whatever it is. The conscious desire is not enough. Your vibration or your state of consciousness in your body is at a lower level than, let's say, acceptance or love and joy in the David Hawkins scale. And when you have split intentions, these are all things that you can work with. When we do constellations work, which is the quantum field work that I do, this is very, you can literally you can see it, you can immediately diagnose it, and then we can work on it. And then you can really start to, take the responsibility and turn it around. So, um, so this is the Abraham Hicks quote again. Yeah, we can stay in victimhood, or we can say, hey, I'm a quantum match to this thing, and I can do something about the quantum match. And that is the change the box teaching. How can I not be a match to that problem? How can I be a solution? Yeah. So every time that you are not working on your 1% traits, which is below the 200, and you are staying in the fear and you are identified with the ego or Satan, it blocks the light. And your soulmate, whether it's your business clients, your business partner, or your romantic soulmate, or whatever it is delayed, or it is accelerated depending on how you deal with it. So you don't find your soulmate, you remove what blocks you from seeing them. So David also made us go into a whole worksheet where we had to do beliefs work. And it was very, very revealing. You know, if you can absolutely do it for yourself, and you will already see your toxic states of being, or your limiting beliefs, or your split intentions in there. I do this work very intensively with clients because I want to empower them with tools that they can literally, you know, they can do it without me. And so I will do some workshops on this because it is very important that we learn how to do this in our own world. So if you look at the work that I do in a constellation, you literally choose people to actually embody and to channel the different parts of you. So if you look, for instance, at this line, let's say romantic love, yeah? There's a part of you that wants to be free. I don't want to take care of anybody. I just want to go to all these beautiful exotic places and be a digital nomad. And there's a part of you, oh, I actually want a family. Yeah. So this is already a split intention. You can constellate that and see where there is specific trauma, or where there's a specific competing belief, or there is something that isn't in alignment, and where can you find the higher consciousness that can give you and the freedom and the family. Yeah. So, but in the constellation, we can also see actually you identify with I want peace, but let's say you constellate it, and the person that is constellating, going into your constellation might say, I actually feel super angry. I just want to kill this person. So the constellation work that I do, it really helps you find out the truth of why something is so difficult in your life. It shows you the hidden stuff. The 99% is made visible by constellations work. And that's why I love it so much. That's why I studied it. So our identity very often is in this axis. I'm one with source. I am spiritual. These other people are not spiritual. I'm spiritual. If you do the work in the constellations world, this other hidden part of you might show up, and it could be, yeah, I feel in love with source, but in my human relationships, I feel I'm always rejected. And that, I think, was the 99% of the people in that workshop. A lot of them had this I'm not good enough type of programming. So, so having looked at that, you know, I really want us to see this specific video that I made on my TikTok. Something in me feels it is very funny, but I know also that this was a very big pain point in my life. I want you to see it. Sorry, where is it? Can I actually access it? Oh, I don't know where the link is anymore. I don't see the link. So basically, if you click on it, you see a baby crying, and I thought, oh, this. So basically, I think the original video was a baby crying about a cookie or something. And so every time the baby was like reaching her hand to the cookie, the mom says no. And then the baby's crying, like really heartbreakingly crying. And then the baby tries again, and the mom says no. And then she literally breaks down. But the way that I saw it was like, oh, that was me, my inner child that wanted the prince on the white horse. And of course, a part of me knew that this was not what I wanted. I didn't want to be saved. I wasn't that, I didn't want to be Mr. Bean waiting there for somebody to come and save me and make me feel whole. But that was my hidden part. That was my vibrational set point. My body was programmed that way. And that was how I showed up in relationships. And and of course, I had all these split intentions because a large part of me was like, why would I choose a relationship if I was going to be rejected again and put myself at risk again? So I didn't want to face the challenge and I didn't want to take any risk. So this is where most people are with a lot of things, not just romantic relationship. They would rather not set up the business. They would rather not set up their practice. They're literally just not facing the challenge because they're not in 200. So basically, what I then thought about is, I will do one more presentation about all the tools of how to actually work with the split intentions and the beliefs and the inner masculine and the inner feminine. So that is actually, I will also talk about the Dr. Joe stuff and about what is going on with your inner masculine, because I studied a lot of the Jungian work. I obsessively read about the Jungian work. And I think this is so, so important because when we are in romantic love, we have a lot of hidden beliefs about the other sex, which are not helpful at all. So after I do the next presentation, I will have a series of master classes and workshops around what I call alignment constellations. There's a waiting list for that. And I forgot what the link is. I think it's alignmentconstellations.scoreapp.com, but I will post it on my YouTube video. You can find it there. And basically, I will then teach a step-by-step masterclass on resolving split intentions. And if you want to join that free masterclass, join the waiting list, because I think, as I said, you actually really, you think that you want peace, you think that you are one with source, but there's parts of you that are feeling rejected. There's parts of you that have split intentions. There's parts of you that still haven't forgiven. And all these things are just blocking you. They're blocking you from alignment. They're blocking you from going to, that 99%. So I have now come to the end because I don't want to continue for too much longer. Next week, I want to talk about split intentions and the limiting beliefs and how actually the 99% and the Jungian work, the Dr. Joe work, and how that all intersects. And also from systemic viewpoint, how that actually gives us a lot of insights as to how we can resolve it in the inner world, because we're using the quantum field in the embodiment of participants. So I hope that this was insightful. If you have a question, please, send me a little chat. Thank you, Fran. Thank you for your comments. If you have a question, I can answer it. If you don't have a question, let me know what you found most useful. I think most of you here are ready to be at cause, but I think as most of you are human, just like me, you will have that strong intention, but maybe also have some, let's say, maybe not have the right tools to actually really resolve these split intentions or these programs or trance states that are running you. So I would love to do a step-by-step masterclass to really show it to you. So hopefully some of you can join. That might be on a Sunday or a Saturday, I don't know. Thank you, Aura. Thank you, Renate. Thank you, Brigitte. Thank you, Thomas. My husband is saying, great framework, explained in detail and brought to life by comparing it to other teachings, which I'm always like that, that I'm a bit geeky in that. I don't see questions, and it's maybe because this is, yeah, I really actually want to make presentations so that you can answer questions yourself. I don't want to confuse people. So hopefully, but if you have questions, please send them to me. I know in my meetup groups, I had quite a lot of questions, so I actually need to go through them and see what the questions were. And then maybe in one of the coming webinars, we can actually talk about that. So the wait list, I will put that in the YouTube video where you can rewatch this, you can share it with people, subscribe to the YouTube video, comment on it, and share it with people. And hopefully, yeah, you've learned a lot here. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a beautiful night. Have a beautiful week.